What kind of king builds one of the greatest empires medieval Europe has ever seen, only to be destroyed by his own wife and children? This is the story of Henry II of England, a ruler who transformed law, government, and kingship itself, and whose personal life became one of the most tragic dynastic disasters in history. Henry was born in 1133, in the French city of Le Mans, into chaos. His mother was Empress Matilda, the daughter of King Henry I of England. She was the rightful heir to the English throne, but when her father died, her cousin Stephen seized power instead. What followed was a brutal civil war known as the Anarchy. England collapsed into lawlessness. Castles sprang up everywhere. Barons ruled like kings, and young Henry grew up watching his mother fight and fail to reclaim her crown. This violent childhood would shape Henry's obsession with order, authority, and control. Henry's fortunes changed rapidly in his teens. He inherited Anjou from his father, became Duke of Normandy, and in 1152, married Eleanor of Aquitaine, the most powerful woman in Europe. With that single marriage, Henry gained control of Aquitaine, doubling his territory overnight. By the age of 21, Henry controlled more land in France than the French king himself. In 1153, Henry invaded England. King Stephen, exhausted by years of war, agreed to a compromise. Henry would inherit the throne. A year later, Stephen died. At just 21 years old, Henry II became King of England. Henry now ruled what historians later called the Angevin Empire. It stretched from northern England through Normandy and Anjou and deep into southern France. This was not a unified nation, but a patchwork of lands, each with different laws, customs, and loyalties. Henry ruled constantly on the move, traveling thousands of miles each year to keep his empire together. He was energetic, ruthless, and tireless. And above all, he believed in strong royal authority. Henry's greatest achievement wasn't territorial, it was institutional. After years of civil war, England's legal system was broken. Henry rebuilt it from the ground up. He introduced raw courts replacing local feudal justice, and traveling judges bringing the king's law to every corner of England. Early forms of trial by jury and standardized legal procedures. These reforms became the foundation of English common law, a system still used directly or indirectly in many countries today. For Henry, law was power, and power belonged to the king. Henry's desire for control soon brought him into conflict with the church. His closest friend was Thomas Becket, his chancellor and a man Henry trusted completely. So in 1162, Henry made Becket Archbishop of Canterbury, expecting loyalty. Instead, Becket transformed overnight, defending church independence against royal authority. Their conflict centered on whether clergy accused of crimes could be tried in royal courts. The argument exploded across Europe. Then, in 1170, 4 knights, believing they were acting on the king's wishes, murdered Becket inside Canterbury Cathedral. The shock was immediate. Becket became a martyr. Henry was blamed across Christendom, though he denied ordering the murder. Henry was forced to perform public penance, humiliating himself before the church. But Henry's greatest enemies were not priests or kings. They were his own family. Henry and Eleanor had 8 children, including Henry the young king, Richard later Richard the Lionheart, and John later King John. Henry tried to control succession by granting titles but not real power. His sons hated it. In 1173, they rebelled. Even worse, Eleanor joined them. France, Scotland, and rebellious English nobles united against Henry. The empire nearly collapsed. Henry survived, but Eleanor spent the next 16 years imprisoned, and his sons never forgave him. In Henry's final years, betrayal became routine. His sons allied with Philip II of France. Even Richard, his favorite, turned against him. In 1189, defeated, ill, and broken, Henry learned that even his youngest son John had betrayed him. Legend says Henry whispered, "Shame, shame on a conquered king." He died days later. Henry II left behind a fractured family and a collapsing empire, but he also left something far greater. The legal systems he created shaped England for centuries and influenced the modern world. Henry II proved that kingship wasn't just about conquest. It was about law, administration, and authority. He built a system stronger than his empire, and that may be his greatest legacy. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval history, consider subscribing for more stories where power, ambition, and betrayal collide. Because history is never just about the past.